What's good, Seahawk fans? Welcome in to Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. On today's show, we will break down every single free agent for your Seattle Seahawks. I have divided into tiers of the players that the Seahawks should bring back. We'll go over all of that and more in just a few moments from right now. Before we do, folks, we are getting very close to 34.5 thousand subscribers here on the channel, about 157 away. I got to tell you, it is my honor and privilege to do this show with you every day on the channel, but I want more people to be a part of this, and we need the 12s from all over the world to be here and experience what we do each and every day here on Seahawks Today. So do your part, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends and your fellow Seahawk fans, make sure they subscribe as well. Let's get to 35,500 by the end of the day today. Subscribe now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. The Seahawks have a total of 26 players that are set to enter free agency this offseason. Now, obviously, you have the franchise tag available, and you can re-sign guys, of course. But for now, here are the players as we go through these, and we're going to kind of go rapid fire of who all is going to be hitting free agency in alphabetical order. We start with Johnathan Abram, who was picked up very late this season by Seattle off of the Green Bay Packers and previously the Las Vegas Raiders. Cody Barton also is going to be free agent. More on him coming up later. Nick Bellore, also at the fullback position, he's a free agent, as is Artie Burns and Justin Coleman at the cornerback position. Moving on, LJ Collier also going to be a free agent this go-around, as is Poona Ford. More on those guys and their situations here in a bit. Kyle Fuller also going to be a free agent this offseason, as is another fullback, Cullen Gillaspia, also hits free agency, as is Marquise Goodwin at the wide receiver position. Phil Haynes also on the list, as is Travis Homer at the running back position. Mike Jackson, who started this year at one of the cornerback spots, he'll be on there, as is Darryl Johnson at the outside linebacker spot. Josh Jones at safety, also a free agent. Some more names to get to. Drew Lock is a quarterback on this list. Not just Geno Smith, but Drew Lock as well. Isaiah Mack at the defensive tackle spot will be there, as will be Ryan Neal. Tyler Ott at the long snapper position, and Rashaad Penny will be a free agent as well. Geno Smith, got plenty to discuss on Geno Smith, the most important free agent of this offseason for Seattle, as is our guy, Mr. Tabor, is on the list as well, and Carson Tinker at the long snapper position as well. And then three more names for you. One of my favorite guys, good old Godwin, who was terrific in the return game. He hits free agency. And then a couple of restricted free agents for Seattle, which include Penny Hart and Tanner Muse as well. So that is the full list of free agents for the Seahawks. We'll break down here in a second the priority of who should be re-signed in just one moment. But before we get to that, who is the number one player the Seahawks need to re-sign? I think almost all of you will say Geno Smith, but we'll leave this open to interpretation. If you have another answer besides Geno Smith, that's okay too. Let me know in the comments section who is the number one player the Seahawks need to re-sign this offseason. So here's what I've done. I have divided the priority of what the Seahawks need to do to keep their own players based on a tier system. And the first tier is just the Geno Smith tier, if you want to call it that. Tier 1, re-signing Geno Smith is a must. That is the number one priority for the Seahawks in free agency, is bringing Geno Smith back. And I know that we've talked about the franchise tag potentially being an option for Geno, or that they could give him a short-term deal, whatever it may be. I think in a perfect world, it's a 2 or 3 year contract. You take care of him. You get him paid. You don't have to worry about doing this dance next offseason either. Lock him up and make sure he's your starting quarterback next year. Even if you bring in a quarterback in the draft, if you draft somebody in the first round, Geno Smith is your starter next year until that quarterback is ready, whatever it may be. There's no reason why Geno Smith should not be back in a Seahawks uniform in 2023. So that is tier number 1. 3 more tiers to go, but first, will the Seahawks re-sign Geno Smith? We did hear John Schneider say last week that it wasn't a 100% certainty that they were going to get a deal done and bring Geno Smith back, that there is a limit of some sorts. What do you think? Will the Seahawks re-sign Geno? Tell me in the comments section. Y for yes, in for no, if the Seahawks will get a deal done or not to bring Geno Smith back to Seattle. Today's edition of Seahawks Today is sponsored by Fume. We all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard they can be to kick those habits. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habits for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful and really hits the back of the throat. Now, get this. The Journey Pack comes with 3 flavors for you to enjoy. That includes the maple pepper, the crisp mint, and the white cranberry. Fume is not a vape. It is a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to just do that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code chatsports to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports and use code chatsports to save an additional 10% off your order today. All right, moving on now. Here is tier number 2, and I would describe tier number 2 as guys like DJ Reed, who were good players, but could get outbid by another team after a respectable offer of some sorts. You would be happy to have them back, but they're going to draw interest from other teams. Rashaad Penny being one of those. Look, we already know that Kenneth Walker is going to be your number 1 running back next year. But I'm not opposed to Rashaad Penny being your number 2 guy, but I'm not going to give him the moon to come back and be your number 2 running back by any means. But Rashaad Penny, the door is still somewhat open of some sorts. And remember, it's not a talent issue. We all know Rashaad Penny's a good back. It is the injury issue that we've seen with Rashaad Penny of why you'd be hesitant to pay him and come back as far as that goes. Ryan Neal at the safety spot. Ryan Neal, the nerds this past season at Pro Football Focus and all of those, scouting sites and all those, they liked Ryan Neal a lot this year. Now, of course, you also have Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams should be coming back, and there's talk that Seattle is interested in drafting a safety as well. So don't know necessarily where Ryan Neal fits into that equation, but we know he's a talented football player. Then there's Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson, I mean, think about it. This guy was borderline cut candidate and started all season at the cornerback spot for the Seahawks. Pretty successful, all things considered. Is he that great of a player? Not really, to be honest, but he's a potential good value player for this Seahawks team. And what you have in Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant on the way up, I don't know exactly if Mike Jackson, like what we talked about with Ryan Neal, where he factors into the equation with the younger players on the rise. So something to think about when it comes to tier 2 there. I got 2 more tiers to go to, but let's hear from you here on Seahawks Today. Name a player you think the Seahawks should re-sign. Besides just Geno Smith, who all comes to mind? Let me know in the comment section who you think the Seahawks should re-sign. Now, tier 3. These are guys that have been good and we hoped would be good, but there's been some inconsistencies of some sorts. Poona Ford would be one of those guys at the defensive tackle spot, as is Justin Coleman, Phil Haynes, and Marquise Goodwin. Talented players, but I think we all sit there and say to ourselves, there could be more out of these guys. And if you were to sign any of these four and bring them back, it's a prove-it situation of sorts where you've disappointed me before. I've seen the good, but it's either put up or shut up time. If you're going to come back to Seattle, I got to see more than what I did previously, basically with all four of these players in Tier 3. Then we go to Tier number 4, and that's where I look at Cody Barton. And this Tier 4 is the maybes, where you can live without them. They're replaceable, but maybe you want to take a shot at having them as a one-year bargain of some sorts. Cody Barton, I think his chances of getting re-signed skyrocketed when Jordan Brooks had that injury that's going to sideline him for most of next year. He is going to be your leading linebacker when it comes to tackles from the previous year coming back of who will be healthy next season. I think that Cody Barton is a guy that because of the circumstances, he could benefit, sign him to a one-year deal potentially. LJ Collier, I mean, let's be honest here. LJ's been kind of a bust for most of his career, but I can't see him costing too much of other teams being interested. Maybe you bring LJ Collier back cheap, a guy that knows the system. Penny Hart, the wide receiver spot. Penny, we were kind of waiting for that breakout. Just didn't really happen for Penny Hart. Travis Homer had a few moments at running back. We know that he can be a good receiver out of the backfield. But, again, kind of just hoping that you would see more out of Travis Homer. And he had opportunities to show that this past year. And then there's Drew Lock, who we didn't see any of in 2022 other than in the preseason. And we've heard that the Seahawks coaching staff and management would be open to the idea of bringing him back as the backup. But then you look at with where the Seahawks are at, would you rather just go ahead and get a younger quarterback to sit behind Geno Smith rather than bringing back Drew Lock when I don't think anyone's confident that Drew Lock is your future by any means? So Tier 4 is interesting. We'll see how it plays out. I think they'll get a couple of these guys. I'd be shocked if all 5 of them end up not in Seattle when it's all said and done. So let's go back to Cody Barton. To me, he's the one that is the most intriguing of that final tier, that Tier 4. Would you sign Cody Barton and bring him back to Seattle? If you would, type R for re-sign, type P for pass. Let me know in the comments section. You want to bring Cody Barton back to Seattle, R for re-sign, P for pass. Before we go, one more. I mentioned one of my favorite guys is our boy Godwin, the great return man, who I got to tell you, I mean, although we didn't see a whole lot of his kick and punt returns, when we did see him out there, it was like, okay, let's get on your feet. Let's get excited, get ready to go. And I think he's got a lot of potential. I would love to see him back. I don't think he belongs in the tier system of sorts. He's kind of just his own guy. I want to see him back. You're not going to have to pay him a whole lot. Find a roster spot for him and be your return specialist of some sorts in 2023. That does it for Seahawks Today. We will see you next time here on the channel. And until then, follow me on social media. Thanks for joining us.